Mm-hmm.
You would think I would have some basic idea of what's going on here, but no. All right, I want to welcome everybody to First Friday, Calling All Poets. We've been doing this we've been doing it for 24 years, going on very close to 25 years. Every first Friday, we've either been live or we're on Zoom. We're going to be on Zoom for at least another month, I believe, and maybe start in November at our new home, which is going to be Unison Arts Center at 9 Parodies Lane in New Paltz. Our featured readers for this evening are Ron Bremner, Jim Eve, and Amanda Russell. I want to thank everybody from coming in from all over the United States. Maggie from New Zealand. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Greg Carell, if you don't know, is the man behind the curtain running all this stuff. And I'm the poor guy out front. So let's get started. Ron, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Ron Bremner writes of incense, peppermints, and the color of time in such venues as International Poetry Review, Poets Online, Jerry Jazz Musician, Patterson Literary Review, Shot Glass Journal, Sigmund Freud and Poetry, Red Wheelbarrow, and the legendary first issue of the Passaic Review, along with Allen Ginsberg. He's worked as a cab driver, security guard, truck unloader, and a 40-year computer programmer. Ron has published 8 books, chapbooks of poetry, including Absurd, Cajun Mutt Press, and Hungry Words, Alien Buddha Press, and created 13 ebooks. He has thrice won honors in the Allen Ginsberg Awards. He lives with his beautiful sociologist wife, who is with us here this evening in wonderful Northeast New Jersey. Always a pleasure to bring on Mr. Ron Bremner. You're up, buddy.
Okay.
Hey, listen, being that Jim's not here for the moment, take a couple extra minutes to read too, if you want.
Okay, I'm going to start with some weird. Well, first of all, let me say it's been a really wild week. We've been through some strange things. My son was hit by a car on last Friday night, and so we've had a lot of running around to do. But we're here now, and we're going to do it. So these first couple of poems are kind of weird. I figured that would be the best way to start. I went to the Exacting Clam with a pseudonym. It's a very surrealist magazine, and the first poem is in appreciation of Jorge Luis Borges. All of the words of this poem are taken from Borges's The Labyrinth, although these are not quite the way he intended them. But I really appreciate Borges, and I really love him. You are harsh, I stagger. You culminate in the boundless. I am your pure assassin. You dominate, I unite. You delegate, I endure. You occupy with oppression. I capture your imaginary mischance. You are the epitome of the ineffable, but your miserable destination is me. You hide behind mud walls to drown out the voice of the informer, so that I cannot identify you. In your adjoining deception, I am your hired contractor. Are we both clandestine enough? Your crystalline soothes my rectangular negligence. And that's an appreciation of Jorge Luis Borges. This next poem I attempted to get for the 4th time into Maintenance magazine. It didn't make it, but I'm very lucky that a wonderful magazine called the Galway Review in Ireland picked it up. It's called Zeitgeist Shares the Heist. Zeitgeist shares the heist of a peace frog in the mist, which kisses solemn vows. Who knows what evil lurks under burning toes? Curious, peace is the dream who salivates cautiously under hallowed ground. When the flames of war conflagrate, worms crawl under tanks and copulate. Shells quell the silent air. The silent air quells all. And this poem was also in the Galway Review. Wistful, pungent, our love was magnificent to feel, to see, to touch, to smell, even to hear the cacophony of passion, beautiful in its insouciance, its evitable strength. It felt like some gnome was holding our heads underwater, like sun glare was blinding our eyes, like our noses were dipped in kerosene. That was our love. I want to go back. I want to swim in you. I want you to burn me in your blaze. Can we do that? And these are some poems that were published in the Red Wheelbarrow. This is one of my earliest poems published. It was written in 1978, I think, and it was published in the Passaic Review. The Crossing of the Red Sea. The sky is a red sea. The moon is a smooth stone. Dark cloud eroding islands shade deep hung cliffs. Washed in by such an evening tide, revolutions gasp in bartered currents. Romance erodes in dullish sweat. Creation skims and dips away. But in the Cleveland Sea, something bright excites the iris, and the cool, round moon echoes with remembered melodies. And in the dark island caves, lurking, hiding, waiting to be discovered, lives what promise, what fate. These are reasons fair enough, as reasons go, no less real than any abstract, no less false than any trust. The sky is a red sea, the moon is a smooth stone, dark cloud ferry steamers pledged to carry me home. And this next poem is very dear to my heart. This was written in the mid-1970s when I was moving from one decrepit Passaic apartment to another decrepit Passaic apartment. It's called Smoke Rings Like Rumors. Smoke rings like rumors, and dreams like stale cigarettes in a cracked ashtray left behind at the old apartment. Okay, this one somehow has been published 4 times. I wrote it in 1979. It was published not until the 2014 in the Patterson Literary Review. Then it got picked up by Climate of Change, Sigmund Freud in Poetry. Was published one other place, I can't remember, and finally in the Red Wheelbarrow. In Patterson, at Blimpie's, sit Aristotle and Descartes at a plastic table in plastic chairs, watching through the blue plate glass for their bust to Fairlawn. While outside in the slush mess stands a huddle of shiverers, waiting too. And, oh, shut up, says Aristotle. No, you shut up, says Descartes. They giggle frantically in appreciation of each other's wit. Meanwhile, at the back table sits Sigmund Freud, carefully tempering his coffee with cream, studying intensely the play being acted out before him, while Holden Caulfield sweeps the floor. And, oh, shut up, says Aristotle. No, you shut up, says Descartes. After many shut-ups, the Fairlawn bus arrives. Aristotle and Descartes guffaw fraternally as they charge through Limpy's door, while Sigmund, unsmiling still, sips his weak brew, and outside the cream pours onto the bus, and inside Holden sweeps Limpy's floor. Okay, this one again is from the late 1970s and was dedicated to Sylvia Plath. It's called Barracuda Decision. The door was locked. White wine incense draped the table. Feeding on our youth, a supper of wit, we dined, occasionally pausing to say grace beneath the table. From outside the silver dining room, echoing off the walls in the halls of a sterile palace, computer banjos spewed rueful tunes of monogrammed secrecy. Singular incest was the rule of the hour for those who would play the game properly. I wanted to play, I think. Did you? Till you explained the player's entry fee, disguised till the final whistle blows. So go back to chewing your bubble gum or whatever you do nowadays. I'll bust open the locked door with one good strong kick. How am I doing on time?
Sorry, you're doing fine.
This poem is dedicated to the great Roger Maris. It's called The Ghost Chaser. He chased a ghost to the crack of our whip. Our simple plan: the ghost would vaporize through his fingers before delighted eyes and excited sighs. The stupid man, he couldn't understand the plan. He caught the ghost we loved the most. His prize, the stings of our whip. Away he ran. She wore a raspberry beret in Hermosa Beach, spring 1986, number 37 on 19th Street. It had a side beach view. 4 apartments in an old but sturdy 2-story white block building. She had the place beneath mine. Apartment sale, her roommate moving out. I bought a toaster and fell for her then and there. I gave her some sappy line about not knowing such a beautiful lady lived just downstairs. What a day. I not only sold the toaster, I got a wonderful compliment as well. She was my first stewardess. I wasn't her first writer. I wrote computer programs for Continental Airlines and prose and poetry late at night. She flew for United. Without her roommate, she felt empty, but she hated nightlife, loved KCRW. We spent the night lounging on the couch with KCRW, the cool and the crazy, Michael Oates' Archives Alive, and Joe Frank's miserable, monotone adventures. So it went for weeks. She didn't cook. I didn't cook. It was eggs and sandwiches all week. It was Miguel's burrito house for Saturday lunch, and riding in her little red Corvette up to El Segundo to the Red Onion for Sunday dinner, always wearing her raspberry beret. Then back to the beach house. I wasn't her first writer, but she was my first and last stewardess, till the transfer came up. Paris, and more money too. She couldn't say no. Goodbye, LAX. You can come out and see me. You work for Continental, and I'll come to LAX once a month. She drove away in her little red Corvette, wearing that raspberry beret, and I quit Continental in a week. Hello, NYC and Citibank. Goodbye, KCRW. Goodbye, the cool and the crazy. Goodbye, Michael Oakes, Archives Alive. Joe Frank's monotone followed me east, but the Raspberry Beret didn't. But years later, if Prince's music is playing, I can almost reach out and touch that beret and the woman wearing it. This is called Her Parts 1 and 2. Part 1. She dresses like a dream, walks on fire, upsets apple carts, douses spring with rain. Dreary phantoms, refugees of desire and long overdue payments, these make not a dent in her limousine of letters. Hers is the word, the phrase, the sentence of the poem, unbeknownst that is her. Part 2. She comes and goes and comes. She scents the odor of a dream, the cachet of tomorrow, which informs her of where to spend her time. Words spill out of her like cold milk into hot coffee. Her cup heats up the microwave. And this is an erasure poem, an erasure of John Keats to Fanny. Let my spirit throw me upon the flood, stifling my dream. I come into the wintry air. My fears, ravished, aching, gaze with greedy looks. Eat up my silver moon. Let the amorous burn voluptuous visions into me. Fanny, put your hand upon a woman swayed to and fro to despair. And I don't know, everybody should look up that poem to Fanny by John Keats because it's a fantastic poem. Mike, am I just about done?
Yeah, do a couple more, man.
Okay. This is called Joe Frank, 1938, 2018. And Joe Frank was an American writer and radio performer known best for his philosophical, humorous, surrealist, and often absurd monologues and radio dramas. Joe Frank was the color of vodka and tonic, the taste of dry tamarind, the feel of old leather, the smell of boiling water, the sound of footsteps in the rain. Joe Frank died today, and all these devices go with him to that sardonic place from which he came. Goodbye, Joe Frank. I will miss you on the rebound of a seance on a wet Wednesday afternoon when the tide is low and the taste in my mouth is as bitter as yesterday's coffee. And I think, this will probably be the last one. This is called Medusa, and it's written for a woman named Jean Ray. Neil Young's songs Cinnamon Girl and Cowgirl in the Sand were both written about Jean Ray, half of the folk singing duo Jim and Jean. Phil Oakes slept on her couch on Thompson Street for several months. She was a major character, made to look like a major bitch in the movie Inside Llewyn Davis. And she mesmerized just about every straight male in the West Village in the 1960s. Medusa. The swivel of your smile turned men to stone. But it was not snakes in your hair. It was the twang in your eyes and the tangle of your lips that damaged so many irreparably. Night black hair coiled like a cobra about to strike. Yes, Cinnamon Girl, you California cowgirl in the sand, who migrated east and traipsed the gritty Greenwich Village sidewalks with your many conquests trailing behind, waiting to fall at your feet at the snap of your finger cymbals. Did you enjoy your royalty? The Queen of Thompson Street, your subjects prostrate before you. I heard you once at the Phil Oakes Memorial Concert in 1976. You strapped on your Stratocaster and rolled the place with an electrifying version of Small Circle of Reds. Excuse me. All the great performers of that day, Tim Hardin, Melanie, Pete Seeger, Odetta, and a dozen more. They all wanted Small Circle. But who could refuse Queen Medusa? I wish I had known you in your Medusa days, but then I'd be a pillar of stone now. And I think I better quit because my voice is kind of going.
If folks want to unmute and have a few words with Ron, please do. Ron, that was
Bravo.
excellent. Thank you, buddy.
Great work, great work.
I'm stealing raspberry beret, Ron. I'm gonna, just those two words, I'm gonna see if I could use it somewhere.
I think my favorite line, and what Mary Makofske wrote it, I bought a toaster and fell for her. That was great. I love it.
Fabulous, Ron. Loved it.
Hey,
Well-
Ron, what was Bob Dylan's girlfriend, the famous one from the 60s? What was her name?
Susie Rodolo.
Susie Romo. That's the one that I remember.
Yeah.
She was also a great object of desire.
Wasn't she the one on the cover of his album that he was
Yes.
walking down?
Yep. She was a cool chick.
Mhm.
Yeah, she was on that album cover.
Right. Is
Yeah,
Jean still alive, Ron?
No, she died about 10 years ago.
All right. If everybody's happy with praising Ron, thanks, man. That was great. We'll go on to our next feature reader who did happen to show up. There he is. I see his face. All right, let's get to his bio. Our next featured reader, Jim Eve, began calling all poets in March of 1991 at the Howland Cultural Center in Beacon, New York. Joined by yours truly in the early 2000s, Caps has grown from a local venue to a traveling road show for a number of years. Yeah, that's a road show, all right. Along the way, picking up Greg Carell as Caps technical guru, calling all poets, hit the internet streaming Caps events and became an international venue for poets. Jim is a writer of scattered thoughts that some call poetry. He is most proud of calling all poets and those that helped him build a program that many poets in the Hudson Valley call home. Always a pleasure to introduce my friend, my brother, Mr. Jim Eve. You're up, buddy. I don't hear you, though. I don't hear you, though.
Can you hear me now?
We hear you now.
Okay. I've been having all kind of problems tonight, so I mean, I'm here, but it's all good. So, folks, I don't read a lot, and I tend to like to listen to everybody else read, and see that the program moves ahead with Mike and Greg and everything else. But every now and then I do read, and so you're gonna get some of the things that I've written over a lot of years, and very few people, with the exception of Mike, might have heard any of these things. But Mike's been around a long time, and he's heard me read several of these pieces, I know. So I'm going to start out with the power of poetry. There are people who live with vast amounts of pain, living in a false reality, living life with disdain. On the outside, all is rosy. Inside, a derailed train, battered, broken, smoldering, yet precariously contained. There are things people do with confidence and flair, like function in the workplace, a sanctuary from despair, a safe haven from demons that insist that they will have their way with a person distressed. The workplace holds them off 8 hours or so, those nasty ass demons forced to take a blow. But once outside the sanctuary doors, all hell breaks loose. The demons all have gathered, holding a hangman's noose. Now, some seem to take solace in a pack of smokes. Some will run to the local bar to drown in rum and cokes. Some will seek a lover, hoping the big O will sway the roving band of demons to go scurrying away. I found over the years, these things never work. So I gather with my demons, catering to their perks. Then one day, my demons and I were in a hostile chatter. I casually picked up pen and paper, giving them no chance to scatter. I buried them in a poem. Gotcha, you son of a bitches. Alter ego. Scattered thoughts gather collectively in my head. Their eclectic nature covers a broad swath of intellection that surprises the hell out of me. How is it possible? I am far from an intellectual. I shun verbal conversation that requires thought and reflection on current affairs, academia, art, politics, and religion. In part because I feel inadequate, yet the thoughts keep coming. I am a peasant in the middle class wearing a soiled blue collar who's dredging the economic river for the elusive dollar. I don't have time to think, feel deep thoughts, or savor the flavor of a blooming onion of ideas. It's a pity and oftentimes shitty, but I shed no tears, yet the thoughts keep coming. I am the poet, and wouldn't you know it, I've been listening to his whining for years. His self-esteem is so unkeen. When seeing himself as a literary being, he's hung up on the what is poetry thing. I cultivate his thoughts, pen his poems, read his works, all the while he's in denial. Yet the thoughts keep coming, scattered or not, they keep us both busy. The fertilizing of Iraq. Ever spiraling violence, car bombings, mortar attacks on mosques, suicide bombings in markets, killings, kidnapping, mutilations, desperate bloodletting by martyr seekers in the name of Allah. Slaughter and more slaughter. Die, Shiite, die, Sunni, die, you freedom protecting Marine. Your bodies will be collected as compost for the ideological garden of democracy, where the flowers of Western ignorance grows and the eagle soars dumbfounded by the savage crow. And like I said, a lot of these poems too, and I know I've read a few of them already that I've read before, and I just keep going back to the same poems at times, and I just find that I'm so used to them, I'm comfortable reading them, and in the meantime, while I'm reading these old things, I'm working on new ones, and somewhere down the road, I'll eventually read them. My masquerade. The longing for something emotionally lacking is like a bottomless pit, deep, dark, unfilled, cold. The mind tries to compensate to fill the empty vessel by first developing a psychological process of logical denial for something that's missing, making it plausible and accepting to one so fallaciously affected. Once the process is set, the affected one perpetuates it further by projecting an aura of normalcy outward from a bizarre whirl in which they are living. I tinker with words to acquire some sense of inner peace as I masquerade as a poet. What do you do to fill your void? Blue Monday. If I'm not walking in my own shoes, whose shoes am I walking? If I'm not embracing my spiritual self, what self am I embracing? If I'm not living my own life, whose life am I living? If I'm not experiencing the wisdom of God, whose wisdom am I experiencing? If I exist, why am I not alive? Questions asked, answers not forthcoming. I am an enigma, my questions conundrums, and unfortunately, it's Monday. Those faint voices. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die to become whispers in the wind. Question asked and answer avoided. When do I matter? I asked the Mad Hatter, who was wearing a stovepipe hat above his comic book eyes and wide round face. He smirked a tight-lipped smile and said, not even as a child did you have any importance. Your existence because of circumstance, not out of love or heated romance. You exist, not as a child did you have any importance. You exist not because of circumstances of love or heated romance. You were born to be a troubled soul, to live long and suffer an intolerable toll of heartache and mental duress. Since you are asking the improbable Mad Hatter, I guess the question should be, when will I ever matter? If for a moment you would stop listening to your own pathetic chatter, you would realize your life's worth. That's no answer, you pompous panderer. Pull something else out from that hat of candor. With that, he looked at me and said, it's not for me to sort out the confusion in your head. That misery, that ultimately makes you shudder and dread. Then his stovepipe hat turned to a clown's, and the smile on his face turned to a silly clown frown, and he said as he left, only you have the answer to the question that you asked of this Mad Hatter. Really? Screw you. I am an American. To whom it may concern, I am not an open book, nor a book you can judge by its cover. I am, though, an ordinary man of color who is stuck in America's phantom zone. I am an anomaly to both black and white, having to adjust to America's version of being colored that neither Black America or white America will clearly define. Fine. So I adapt to deal with those who need to categorize, ostracize, and victimize, which has led me to believe humanity is a shaken jar of chaos. If uncapped, will disintegrate and disappear. If we are unwilling to talk about race, how can we ever face the truth about the great USA, the depredation of the Native American, the defilement of Africans dragged screaming into slavery to boost the economy of southern states? Two groups of people very much a part of America's violent and abusing rise to greatness, who even today struggle to gain their rightful place in the social structure of class, economics, and politics in America. In the end, I place myself in the class of other, but other has no clear definition. If people should ask other what, I will politely give no answer. Yet ask me if I'm American, I will smile, say yes, yes I am. Rockin' Black. Say hey to all that jazz, spastic rhythmic variations, syncopated spaz, dark, dark hues, swallowing nervous stars, two blue patrons drunk at the outside bar, loud, loud chaos, percussion-filled shot, screeching, screaming guitars, psyched up niggers rock. Open your eyes, brother, slow down, take the mighty soul train to Motown. Sleeper, sleeper, wake up, dreamer. You're black, black in suburbia, where you've been white outed. We poets. We poets are not all educated beings. Some of us cannot afford pricey sheepskin, which denote credibility amongst the scholarly. We poets are not all religious beings. Some of us are skeptics of priests and pulpit, though our spirituality is omnipresent. We poets are not all wealthy beings. Some of us are disenchanted blue-collar workers living in squalor and pain. We poets are not upright citizens. Some of us are criminals, misfits, or insane, living in gloomy prisons or incarcerated in our own brains. We poets are not all heterosexual, nor are we hideously vile for being writers of poetry, living an alternate lifestyle. We poets, though, are connected in series, if you will, like an electric source energized by a word mill. Shades of brown. Having brown skin, is it a sin? It may feel like it at times, but there's nothing to confess. At best, the color of my skin is a win-win. Then again, I am sound being the color brown. Others think my shade falls short and try to distort my existence. They tend to freak because the mystique of my shade of brown hide well the embarrassing red that creeps into pale yellow cheeks that are falsely fed the absurdities of being the uppercase breed. Indeed. On the other hand of the spectrum, friend, where brown is darkened over again and yields to the darker tone of black, you'd think we'd have each other's back. But no, there are those who would attack, saying that exterior is inferior. I swear those niggas are on crack. Say what you will about white America, but say what you will what white America thinks about the color of people darker than a pale pink, because over the years, I had to discover it is what you think, my sister, my brother, that concerns me. You see, the attitudes we have amongst ourselves towards the shade of brown to black in our community has me wondering, how did we get so uppity to start bickering over what shade of brown is superior? This bullshit scares me. Where's the unity when we are not down with our shades of brown? Where's the unity when we are not down with our shades of brown? Where's the unity? My hand. My hand is brown, callous, strong, that of a simple laborer. When fisted in anger, it is a hammer and strikes with destruction. My hand is passive, ready to give a firm handshake of friendship, an assuring pat on the back. It is a lover, slowly sweeping long, smoothing caresses along my woman's thigh, gently cupping her firm breast, tracing the contours of her nipple, wiping a tear of satisfaction from her eye. My hand is a hand of a poet, philosophical, opinionated, emotional, transforming. I look at my hand and realize it's just an ordinary hand, quite ordinary, really, if it's without a pen writing a poem.
Eve.
Yep.
I know you and I run this thing, but you're going a little bit over. So how about one more?
All right, well, I'll go with that. Thank you for letting me know.
All right.
Hail to the poets. Listen to the words of the poets. Open up your hearts to their world. The spoken word is fleeting and flows through the ears like water down a drain. Read the words of the poets. Feel their hope, love, and pain. Other forms of literature do not hold up or retain the wisdom of the muse. Support the arts of the poet. They, more than anyone, are the passion purveyors of all mankind, the ones who can say what 1,000 hearts feel in verse, free verse, or rhyme. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you listening. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome, brother. Everybody, if you want to unmute and say a few words to Jim before we move on to our next featured reader, please do.
It went too fast. I couldn't hear
Bravo.
Jim.
Bravo,
That was
Jim.
great,
That
Jim.
was
Thank
just
you.
great. Absolutely great. Loved it, Jim. I loved it.
Yeah, it was great, Jim. It's really
Real treat.
Everybody's talking, so I don't know whether my voice will come through, but that was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And just, when you hear great poetry, it just gets your brain going. It gets you going with wow, that's fantastic. And also images come up and whatever. You got my brain going.
It's kind of funny because, again, like I said, I don't read much, and very few people really have heard any real body of my poetry. And, I'm just at that point now where I got so much stuff, I got to start reading it more and let people know, hey, yeah, I do write. And I'm just the kind of guy that I write pretty much to comfort myself. I don't, Mike will tell you, I don't look to get published. I don't look to do anything with my poetry other than to write and read and host my poetry program and enjoy myself that way.
Yeah, you sound very confident reading your poetry too. You read it well. Yeah.
Well, I try.
Jim, I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
But your voice needs to be heard.
Well, that's
Your
what people
voice
tell me.
needs to be out there.
Yeah, I've been told that.
I'm a promoter. I'm a person that really wants to make changes in the world or whatever. But what I've so far discovered, because I'm new to this poetic community, is that you write, and that's a personal activity. But publishing is getting your voice out there. And publishing is really critical for poets. You gotta get your voice out there. And so I've been trying to figure out, and I've been trying to do all sorts of different things about, well, how do you publish? Because this is a great writers community. This is a great poets community. And we can just stay right here in our capacity and in our enjoyment and in our bubble. But if we don't get this out there, what are we doing? We're just writing for ourselves. I mean, I write for myself. I know that, but
Well,
anyway.
I do, Maggie. And Maggie, and the funny thing about it is that I get it out there. My way of getting it out there is being able to read to you guys. Okay. And that's where my need is taken care of. Because I really, you know, I just write because I have a lot of things going through my head. And some of the things that bother me the most, I get out on paper, and then I understand what it is I'm feeling after writing things. Okay.
It's a beautiful, beautiful process. That's what we all go through. That's what we do. We get this out internally, but where does it go? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I mean,
Well, I understand that, but when I read, I say, I got it out to you. Now you do with it what you will.
It goes into the ether.
I think that it needs a bigger audience. Your poetry is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely incredible, and it needs a bigger audience.
Hey, Margie, if we need, let other people know and let them join in, man. That's how we do it. Just spread the word. That's how it works.
The word. Yep. Thank you, Margie. I appreciate your words.
Jim, I don't know if you
I loved your poetry.
All right, really quick, because we want to get we got 18 people on the open mic, so go ahead.
just wanted to let Jim know that incarcerated in our own brains really knocked everybody out. It was all over the chat.
Thank you, Ray.
And that's one of the reasons we write too.
Right.
Incarcerated in our own brains.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the good words, kind words. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jim. Thanks, Jim. All right. We're talking about getting the words out and things to that nature. Sports teams especially love having homegrown folks come out of their organization, their teams and stuff like that. And I think our next featured reader is one of our homegrown wonderful people. Amanda Russell is an editor at the Comstock Review and a stay-at-home mom. Her poems are forthcoming or have appeared in Hole in the Head Review, Open, Journal of Arts and Letters, and the 2023 Brownstone Poets Anthology. To learn more about her work or her chapbook, Barren Years, please visit poetrussell.wordpress.com. Always a pleasure to bring on Amanda Russell. You're up, Amanda.
Hello, everybody. And I couldn't agree more, Mike. Thank you for having me and for everything that CAPS does and everything that CAPS is. Yeah, I agree 100%. Y'all took me to school. All right, let's get this started. The first one I'm going to start with is, to cross oneself is still the greatest distance to another. She stepped out of the void. Change void to dream. She stepped out of a dream. Change dream to kitchen. She made snacks for children. She stepped out of line. Change line to tense. Change tense to silence. The child says, "Why do people get put in cages at police stations?" She stepped out of wallpaper, out of tree rings. Change tree rings to glossary, change glossary to anything. She finally made a choice all her own, and it's a good one. She stepped out of the void, change void to basement, her hands full of everything she's been looking for. The sewing kit and needles, the box of shoulder pads stuffed with courage. And last month, we had a lot of poems from the featured poets about the body, and this is one of mine. And as I got to thinking about it, I think it's really not so much about my body as it is about maybe being in my 30s or maybe embodiment. I'm not entirely sure, but this one is called In My Mansion, There Are Many Rooms. And an alternate version of it is forthcoming from Stone Circle Review. Neighbors often witness me rolling up sleeves, my body stretched and split and stitched like some corporeal applique sewn around my role play. Dustpanfuls of unlived lives compost the same as watermelon rinds, the sweet stuff long scraped out with a shiny metal spoon, like a fetus who failed in utero. If you run your widest gloves on the windowsill, years of Sunday sermons come undone, stirred up, and weightless as petals at the feet of a waterless vase. Another lifetime will peel from the page and stutter out of your throat like a misremembered name. The wisdom of so many saints proved less convincing than the letter he penned me. Never mind what I said in the car about us. The absence of vows became the cloud I carried home between metal wings and the lightning rod with which I stirred the limiting reagent of faith until gray hairs cupped my face. Somehow it happened. She had become a part of me, the home I filled to my fingerprints, not some hidden else, not even the exaggerated hand of motherhood now grasping the multifaceted jewel of my heart, but my own flash of light catching in my mirrored hall. This poem, this next one I'm going to read, it reaches pretty far back. I feel like it should have been in my book Barren Years, but it just wasn't ready when that was happening. So there were a number of very destructive hurricanes in 2004, 2005 that hit New Orleans. Katrina was one, Ivan and Ike, I think were some others. And I was living in East Texas at that time and going through some major transitions in my life. And this was written thinking back to that time and the several years that followed it. It's called Touch Points. Out of the wild winds we were given, a Luna moth fell. I ran into the mess of hail, held the smallest heart, hand drawn in our margins. Do you remember the day our love rekindled? The rain that ripped, then rippled out of a New Orleans hurricane? How I danced in it with the neighbors' children. My clothes dried by themselves, but we used to see leaves grow greener after a rain. We used to race out to touch them. Long after you, I'd linger, staring straight into the many-faced world until I could see it staring back. Because when I forget my questions, they run after me in dreams. And there was that time they caught me, standing in the shade at a barbecue in the backyard of someone else's life. Processing. As in ongoing, fluxing, as in computing and hold please and etc., as in wait 600 minutes and the anchor we never dropped, and how carefully can a person jump out of a plane, as in whatever you thought you saw, stand over here this time, think again, shift, mend, as in what didn't kill me could have, may yet, as in development and just a minute, and who can tell me what is missing, went wrong, was right, is gone. As in, if you think the kitchen is dirty now, you should have seen it 30 minutes ago. I will answer when you finish speaking. As in, goodbye and hello all rolled into one, maybe, as in the way in never reveals the way out. So what should I do with this map? As in, unless I've misunderstood physics, the earth is always pushing back. Thanks. And this next one, maybe we've all had the experience of wanting to read an article, but maybe we read the caption by the picture or spent too many seconds looking at the graphic before we got started. And then about 3 sentences in, there's a pop-up prompting us to pay or in order to keep reading. And this poem was conceived at such a moment. You've run out of time. Scientists could build a heat shield for the most important ice on Earth, but should they? The heat shield would be made of glass bubbles. And that's as far as I got before a pop-up blocked my screen. We hope you enjoyed your free article. I've run out of time. I'm not a subscriber to many things, but I do believe in climate change and face the crisis as I face other crises. When the kids are arguing over who lost the TV remote, and I want to make breakfast for everyone, but my throat constricts efforts of mindful breathing, I shove reusable earplugs into my ears. If I can't find the earplugs, I pull headphones out of my purse, turn on music borrowed free from the public library. I have coping strategies. Of course, I could run into the living room and fly a peace flag between the 2 pieces of earth I am held responsible for, but should I? I could use the moment to remind myself that somewhere in the world, people are sound asleep. And elsewhere in the world, children are hiding from bombs or starving in their mother's arms, and that's a different kind of fighting. I could close myself in a glass bubble and make up some rationale about the inertia of human nature and the entropy of personal space and how taking turns benefits the vagus nerve. And sharing really is the kindest act to choose when there's only one of something. And there is only one of some things. The most important ice on the planet is melting, our liquid timer. And I cannot read what scientists might do about it long enough to form my own fragile thoughts about such a fragile matter. The poles of our existence, the shields we invent to protect them. And this next one, I'm just going to dedicate it to Raphael. Every time I've read it, she's not been here, and I know she wanted to hear it. So, Raphael, this is for you. Chasing the Goose. An email arrives from Bold, Nebraska. I no longer live in Nebraska and have never been bold, but I do like to know when it's time to plant the sacred Ponca corn, and if plans to build Keystone XL have finally been buried, and if Jane Cleave is a real person, because what would the world be like if every person were a real person? I want to tell you, there have been moments of joy. A year ago, I found a to-do list folded in the pocket of the vintage leather purse I carried when I lived in Nebraska, a time capsule from before I carried children. And the joy was not in finding the list, nor in being able to cross out any tasks accomplished, but rather in the fact that those things I had wanted to do were still things I wanted to do, and that I could, even now, step out this door, stand in the yard long enough to leave footprints, and admire the lone goose flying south, instinct etching its every arc, and trace its visage beyond the end of our dead-end street, wet hands pulling out the knot around my aproned waist, dishes left soaking in the sink. This next one is called Burning the Aviaries, and it's a sonnet, kinda. I didn't really look up the rules. I know some of them, and I went with that. How many gallons of war does love require? Daily we see the trail blazed anew before us, Cortez coming through again with torches, touching, retouching the thing he loves with fire. And are we not his descendants, misplacing shoes and faith, plundering songs with force towards a wealth unheld? Do God's revered ears ever wake to our ringing? Our father, mother, something, way. What I mean is, we found something we call the hue of living, or personhood in all its iterations. But we refuse to admit there are no monsters, just humans with hearts of hunger that ate them. What I mean is, we are still living on this planet, the blue-green footstool left spinning in the corner. And many of these poems are like new to read here or newly published, but this one's just plain new. It's called One Day Late. Despite the hormone pills or calendars or barriers I place between myself and my lover, there is risk in showing affection. Every month is a gamble. I don't want to be pregnant, especially not in Texas. This is rare, my doctor said, when my uterus dropped the copper key to 10 years of peace, the IUD she had placed there last week. And I'm just not lit by the idea of getting an implant the size of a matchstick, or its health risks, or its side effects. Is it so odd to long for menopause? I need a pause. Wish I could slit the square tire on this unicycle and walk and talk one more time to the street magician in Lincoln, Nebraska, who said to me, even married people are lonely. And I hoped so, wanted to be the only rabbit in my hat while I wait for my luteal phase to punch me and leave. Every pressure cooker is silent before it screams, has a rubber seal and a top that begins to slowly rock, tries to control its steam, to manage its horrors and moans like a commodity smuggled between warring countries in the unarmored tank of its body. Don't freak out, I tell myself. Can you give it one more day? And this poem, I wrote a high bun. I know some people here who like high buns, and so I wrote one. And this one actually was picked up by Open Journal of Arts and Letters, and they pair poems with paintings, and they paired it with a painting by a French painter named, I'm not going to say this right, but I'm going to try, Roger de la Fresnay, entitled The 14th of July. And when I saw that, I totally flipped out because there's no way they could have known this, but the poem was written on the 14th of July. So it was like, it was just cool. I got goosebumps. So this is called It's July in Texas Time. 27 days after his 9th birthday, he said, is it right that I have 9,424 memories? You have nearly a decade of memories, I say. And 2 minutes later, he passes me properly 9,425 memories. We were sweating in the checkout line at Goodwill. He paced while I held our place in line, leaned on our attempts to replace things we left behind, the bookshelves and bedside tables, plucked from free signs that sprouted wild along the curbsides of our old town. Transplanted to home, sun hammer, trumpet vine, fence line. Today he sits out of all 107 of the actual degrees, knees on the fake wood floor, mind in 348 BC. He's learning about water clocks while I print documents, official forms for car registration, instructions for the forms for the car registration. Between printer jams, "Put these gloves on me," she says. She must have wrestled herself into the blue princess dress she's wearing, but the gloves are altogether another animal. Shiny satin with glitter embellishment. She looks like Queen Elsa from Disney's Frozen. Time crushes kiddos. Heel, talk, toe, steel-stemmed stilettos. This one, Mike, how am I doing on time?
You're doing fine. If I shut you down now, everybody's gonna yell at me. Just go. Just keep.
Okay. This one, the title runs into the first line, so I won't read the title separately. I made a deal with myself to suspend despair for at least 5 years. Even the dandelions refuse to grow here, and the prickly lettuce is barely thriving. The grass, like thorns beneath the paw pads of my dog, she tiptoes out as if the floor is lava. And did I mention the floor is lava? My son slipped on it, split his left femur in two. The lava floor was an abusive caregiver, or so implied one suspicious doctor speaking into his recorder. The parents say the floor is lava. And in my eyes, embers crackle and rise. The floor became an eggshell, a thing to watch out for as we moved across the room, because the floor was a collapse corrected, a foundation we had to water twice a week so it didn't sink. The drought cracking beneath us as we enter the variables of our lives into its living equation. And so I ordered slip-proof combat boots in white because I don't want to feel underdressed when I walk across fire. But believe it or not, it's always all or everything. The clouds dive-bombed in with lightning as we drove our son to the emergency room. "Do we have to drive in this?" my daughter asks from the back seat. "It's just a little rain," I say. Swallow the flaming sword of fear, white knuckle the car into gear. And this is my next to last one. I've got 2 short ones left. This one's called 12:08 a.m. I don't know how many times I've revised this poem, but this is where it is now. I guess that's all I can say. Headlights drill through blinds that evening left open. Drive me out of sleep again. Break me out of bed to drink water, stretch, start over. In 4 hours, the redstarts and blackbirds will wake. In almost 5, the blue spruce will be shot through with light and hung across an orange sky. The children will wake. Another day will open its mouth. I pull cotton sheets tight over the supernova of my life. Consider covering my collapse in black wallpaper and claiming that all stars short out on their constellations. But every time I ask the mountains, they say, "You are still you, get some rest." And when I ask the flowers, they say, "Just a minute, we need to ask the dirt." And this is going to be my last poem. It's for my mom. And for the past year, my mom has been doing chemotherapy and we're almost done with it. And so I thought maybe I could read this for you, Mom. So today was the day. I was reading Delights and Shadows when the text came through. A photo of you sitting in a chair at a wig shop 1,725 miles away from me and my reading habit. The leopard print barber's cape draped around you matched the maple fire. You chose to dye the hair you knew you'd lose. Outside my window, wind shaves what's left of leaves from trees. They run up the road as if they know which way to go to find spring. Your smile, sunshine in a rain, illumining more than I have words to speak. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, that's all.
Brilliant. Man.
That was brilliant, Amanda. Thank you. Everybody,
Thank you,
please
Amanda.
unmute. Say what you're gonna say.
Amanda, I think Texas must suit you because those were fabulous.
Yeah,
Amazing work. Every single
that
one.
was
Just riveting.
fantastic, Amanda. Fantastic. I haven't heard you in a long time. It's Irene. And I'm just so happy to hear you again. Golly,
Yeah.
you've just grown supernova E.
You better believe it.
Yeah, you've
Beautiful.
you've grown exponentially, Amanda, since the first time.
Uh-huh.
I mean, by leaps and bounds. You're there. You are there. Just keep going. It's magnificent work. Magnificent.
I hope
It's
you come back to
absolutely
the
beautiful,
Poet Society.
Amanda. Absolutely beautiful.
Adore you, Amanda. Adore you.
Thank you, Sharon.
I think you're making her blush. Look at her.
Amanda, you
That
may
was
be,
a gr-
but Caps is still your home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know it. You know it. Always.
Big a big blush.
It was great work, Amanda. Really great to hear you.
Amanda, you know, I can't speak for everyone, but I miss you tremendously, but Texas is so lucky to have you back.
Ditto.
I wrote in the chat, you are thriving in Texas and your roots will take heart there.
Thank you, Mary Louise.
Oh, yeah, you lit up the.
Love you, Amanda.
You lit up the chat.
Yes.
We're
I
glad to have you here.
I haven't written in a while, and honestly, listening to your work was very inspiring, and it just made me excited to, get writing even just like after this. So thank you.
Yeah, who's talking? Because I can't see your face.
Amanda. I'm also Amanda.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
That's great. That's like the best. Thanks.
Amanda, I would like to say, I hope you're okay in Texas.
I'm good. Yeah.
That's a difficult environment.
Yeah.
And what surprises me is that in every difficult environment, Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi, there are people. There are people who are poets, who are activists, who are like good human beings that are fighting. And I think that you represent them.
Thanks.
Texas isn't difficult. It's just hot down here. That's all.
Well, hot politically and hot, but
Well, you know, Margie, living in New York is difficult too. It's no matter where you are, it's a mindset, and Amanda has a great mindset, and she is going to be a rock star there too. And I remember the first time I saw Amanda read, and I had never read out loud before, and I watched her and I thought, when I grow up, I want to be Amanda Russell. She just totally just knocked my socks off. We were up in New Paltz and she had her book with her, and I was hoping to get a book published, and you have been an inspiration to me. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you, Amanda.
I hope to see you here next summer.
Yeah, you missed.
Guest room,
Yeah.
private bathroom, come back home for a while.
All right, we're going to, I want to thank our features, Amanda, Jim, Ron. Thank you guys. was just excellent as always. This is what we try to do here at Calling All Poets, is keep it excellent. And you guys certainly did your part. So thank you very much. Two announcements before we start the open mic. We have a long list, so let's move through that. And the second thing is that, as I said earlier in the evening, even though we worked lots of aches and pains and deliberations to get all the submission information proper, we did not do that. So we forgot to tell you guys how to pay the reading fees. So I'm going to put it up in the chat, and Greg's already corrected it on the website. I will correct it on Facebook. And let's go with our first open micer. Lenny Dellarocca, you're up, buddy.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is called Blur. And I'll just say that I was at a poetry reading on Zoom last week, and one of the poets, in introducing her poem, said that she discovered hummingbirds in her garage, and I wrote that down. And so off I went later on and I did this. It's called Blur. A woman discovers hummingbirds in her garage, and there's something electrical about it. If she could attach them to some crazy machine, she might feel the thrum of their hearts inside her. She might see Christmas lights in the dusty air. Because in the blur of possibility, the cat in the ticket booth is an approximation. Could be a black purse with a smiling zipper, everyday alien with a gold meow. But the woman is slipping away faster than Christmas. She's a blur in the theater of the garage, coffee stained and high on tricks, and the hummingbirds are telling jokes, unplugged like children's toys in the air. But everything's fine. Thursday is never on fire, except the Mr. Magoo ornament and the sleepy Betty Boop are shorted out. Something has gone awry. Neighborhood pets wake up in their master's beds. Everything is a lie. And then I have another silly one. This one came about when I saw somewhere paintings by this artist by the name of Tim Walker, and he puts dresses, he hangs different colored dresses in trees and then puts lights underneath them at night in different, so that they're all different colors. And I saw some photographs of it and they were just wild. So I just ran with it. It's called Leprechaun Chase. Some of them cartwheel across the lawn near the stream, and Ginger, 96, pushes her flubby wheels near Minerva's fountain. Like a fire extinguisher in space, Ginger's wonderful spray fizzes out of her, making her zigzag, violently flip over like a naughty toy. Quick, catch her. And look at Wilma, all puffed up in her Mother Goose outfit, teaching imaginary children to put on their magic hats and fly. I'm dangling dresses in the trees like that Tim Walker painting when Clara drags out the lights to turn them into yellow, orange, and blue lamps. Our storyteller, Mrs. Bash, drowns a kitten at the pool's deep end while some of the girls bring their looms onto the grass to make old lovers out of flannel and chiffon. Keep an eye on Beatrice. Last year, she ran off with a nurse. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. Our dear friend from down under, Maggie Hall, you're up. Maggie, you there? Did she leave us? We'll come back to Maggie. Neil Ostman, you're next.
Thank you. So this first poem was recently published in Panoply, and It's called the Nord Sea. It begins with an epigraph. The Nord Sea. On the ship, it was not indeed as when the maid bears the mead, by Sigvat the Skald. Beneath endless gray hulky clouds, hustling away to find some light, our plow slaps the swells, smashes out plumes of icy spray. Like Sindrid's hammer, rises, pounds, flings, sparks of stinging brine. All around heaving seas sway the deckhands, their grimy yellow oilies daring more than dreary, mock the bruise-hued water. Sea of angry brow storms and storms the weeks, each day a lifetime bearing drizzle, frost and surge. Winds howl away words, talk turns clipped, skin chafes, cracks, blanches to death's pallor, and memories all go stale. The next poem is called Multiple Wounds, and it's in a chapbook that I put together recently. Multiple wounds. Oxblood ceilings above white stark walls, ready to drip heavy drops onto the musty carpet, to stain the lumpy easy chair, deep in thought. Pooling on the kitchen's yellowed linoleum, eventually to gather in a low spot behind the threshold. Who would paint ceilings such a brooding color? When the door opens, as light fans in, it appears to oxygenate a glistening red. And when the door closes, it returns to a darker bleeding. One night, lying on the sofa, staring up, I realize its purpose. Outside, a spring storm pelts, clipping away the feeble bubbled paint. A table lamp's minimal light, unable to push off corner shadows. Then a flash of lightning renders the ceiling a flutter of claret lips, suddenly coaxing, hushed. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Neil. Yep.
One more time, our friend from down under, Maggie Hall. Come on up. Or come on down, whatever the case might be.
Sorry about that. Okay,
Oh,
here we go. In the deep, dark circle of a mountain in the sky, a little girl turns into a crow, a sacrifice for the next life. She strokes the pious black skin of a rubbing by each station, silver stars trapped in a montage of burning flesh. Opus masks the mortal fist, 12 years dreaming of the transformation to wings. From darkness to light, emerging to mate and sing. The sun led them towards number 8, to shake off the last teardrop of rain. In 1 year and a day, you'll get your chance to pray at the Last Supper in southern France. Is it all going to end on a sewing machine table or by a spinning wheel with hands of wet clay? The climax of a future that doesn't come back, grey nomads lost in a garden of the past, records caught in a skip while producing the cross, over of a synthesizer mix. Our first date, he gave me a book of Keats. I was in the middle of Tolstoy and the Kalevala. Prince was playing Purple Rain in my head. Paul Oakenfold cut the track in a desert full of snakes. Did you know the female hyena has a 6-inch long clitoris? If they call me spineless, am I a worm? And do you prefer the song of a lyre or a bellbird? Fish bladders were once used as condoms. The belly of a beast in living colour, like that 80s show with Jim Carrey and the dancers. It birthed the greatest comedians of a generation. The lead dancer debuted in a Spike Lee film, Total Recall, When My Eyes Close. A snail with swelled eye stalks dances like a worm for the bird to eat. And if I come back as a pangolin, the lions will no longer be able to devour me. To live with an armor to keep safe throughout the slipstream. Okay, that's it.
Oh, good. So,
Okay. Thank you.
oh, okay.
Again.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. I'm keeping
Oh,
it
man, you
short
caught
and
me off guard there. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maggie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Maggie.
Maggie.
Joseph Malou, she's still with us. Joseph,
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I'll go for it.
My wife had cancer for 25 years, and so there was cycles of it. And one time I came home, it was a good night. I had just came home. I was the first time in 40 hours I brought in a take-home pay over $1,000. So I walked in, and my wife was a Mexican lady, and I says to her, "Dame un beso," and she and her mother were making chili. And my wife said, which means give me a kiss for my check. And there's a contract with it, you know, kind of a nice way to start the weekend. And Patsy said, "I'm too tired to get up, just bring it here." And my mother-in-law said, "If it was me, I'd be there like this." And I said, "Damn, Patsy, I married the wrong woman." But that has nothing to do with this poem. This is called A Feast Day of Guardian Angels. Malo means bad in Spanish. It is almost noon when I fell asleep and swerved across the lanes to spin circles on the road's shoulder. I'd finished working 6 10-hour days in the Mojave Desert and was an hour into my drive home. Breathless from my spin out, I watched as the dust settled. Realizing I didn't crash, I whispered, "I'm alive," to my guardian angel. He had appeared by my open window, transparent as rain. He seemed composed of large drops. I tried to shake his hand and he disappeared like raindrops on hot concrete. During breakfast, I told my wife about my accident and the sighting of my angel. Slapping her fork on her plate, she said, "If you loved me, you would have slept before you drove. Making it home proves God loves me. Please don't. All you do is joke around," she said, glaring at the hummingbird feeder and the birds fighting with transparent wings. I wanted to come home to you. You wanted enchiladas and beer. And she made me promise that from now on, I'd nap before I drove home. Later, her mother visited. I read in the living room as they cooked. Patsy told her mom that I saw my guardian angel. Her mother said, "Joe es santo." "Hey, no, mama," Patsy said, "es malo." And she repeated malo 7 times to describe how bad a husband I was. Then my guardian angel knocked the book from my hand. Crashing on the floor, it gave me the opportunity to pretend I'd been sleeping the whole time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're here I'm sure Roger told you, we're here every first Friday and third Thursday. So whenever you can, jump on in.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Welcome. The one, the only, Mr. Gary Siegel, you're up.
All right, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Wasn't ready for this. Okay, just give me a minute. Get this. Say something.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have to get the sound on. All right. Quick joke. Can I do a quick joke?
You got 5 minutes.
Okay. Donald Trump walks into a bar. He looks around at the bartender, checks out the crowd, and then accidentally lets out a loud fart. He thought for a moment, then he said, "Pardon me." Here, if anybody got that. Okay, I hear a chuckle.
We should really have a drum set, but that's okay.
Well, it was a little rough, but I got it.
Thank you. All right. I like to laugh. Okay, here's not a funny one. It's called, it's written for a friend who passed. And it's called Karen of the Moon, Karen of the Sun. She could embody the priestess whenever it was called for, or simply when the wind spoke certain words. She walked across the earth as if it were a banquet and could whip one up with magical ease. For a while, she lived by rushing waters. She would be your friend, but better not shy from her ferocity of thought, of love, and of pursuit of the Most High, which was indeed her stock in trade. She consorted once with a stag. She wielded an articulate tongue and expansive intelligence and could shift into the outrageous and playful at any time. This I particularly loved. She occasionally became a man. She knew the animals. Fierce raptors were her companions. She knew their habits, their moods, and their bite. A body is a fragile thing, so many moving parts. It's a wonder we survive even a score of transits around this fat old sun. You are gone, Karen. We are diminished, and we miss you. All right, and then this. It's called With Ease. With ease, a beautiful wave rises and curls up above the water, traveling towards the shore before throwing itself lustily against the sand, which receives its passions and absorbs its drive. The wave, now transitioning into a memory, soaks those sands, making them sparkle in the late day sun, leaving behind bubbling, fizzling sounds as the water descends down into that granular earth, not to be seen again until it is a cloud. And just like this, just precisely like this, just like this, is death. All right, I'm done.
That was a happy one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
Contemplative.
Okay, we'll go with that. Mark Fogarty, you're up. Mark, you still with us? Mark going once. Mark going twice.
Can you hear me?
There he is. There. Okay. Yeah, we hear you.
All right, got it. This one is called Buzu Chavis. Buzu Chavis played the accordion folds in an apron and a cowboy hat some night in 1995 in Plaisance. A song whose burden went, "You're gonna look like a monkey when you get old." There's a chance, I have to admit. His bass player played the breeze, smoking a cigarette with his plucking hand, joining back in when goof time was out. Buzu's son tickled his washboard cover like a man counting his ribs over and over. Somebody said Zydeco is like a cup of coffee. This fat earth never existed until they crushed coffee. It said Buzu played songs went back a century, like Susie Q, the rock band resurrected to a swampy haze. Zydeco isn't like it used to be. When Buzu played, the gasping of the earth and changed to a bright red accordion for the last number with his men. They had instructions for both the right and the left leg then. He had 100 years in his sweaty gaze. Buzu promised the crowd he wasn't going to retire, though his son had to assist him into his pretty accordion. He died 6 years later, almost 71. And this other one is called completely different, In Love with Ethel Mertz. And it has an epigraph from Lucille Ball on Vivian Vance. She was something. Ethel Mertz, how it must have hurt to play married to a buffoon, to play second banana to Michelangelo, to be the second choice of eyes in every room. They say Raphael would pay the night watchman for the glance at the ceiling, squinting at the imperfect view from the smoke light of the torch. But I still stare with amazement at the rooms Raphael painted down below for the Pope. Ethel Mertz is enshrined in Albuquerque and in Jamestown, New York, the only places to be. The homely scaffolds where the work is as remembered as on the Hollywood Walk. Not on the ground, not below my feet, but that perfect place where the light and the ceiling meet. The first was the best, and like the best, it lit the candle. The aliens will be sure to say, send more Lucy and Ethel. Thank you.
That was excellent, Mark. Thank you. Like the best that lit a candle. I like it. Thank you, man. Join us anytime you can. Penny Brody, you're up.
Take me by surprise. So nice hearing everybody tonight. Very, very nice. Happy September.
Happy September.
So I just came back from Cape Cod. Wispy white clouds, foaming waves, indefinite forms, brushed by ocean winds, drawn by lunar tides. Water reflects sweeping blues of sky from shore to horizon to heaven above. Tiny mirrors blink off shallow pools at low tide. Warm waves lap around sandy feet, combing for shells or pretty rocks. Nature's treasure turned dull later upon a shelf, mantle, or dresser top when you get home. A reminder of where it came from, where you have been, waiting to glisten again at home in the sea.
Nice.
This is quite different. This is called Playfully Dangerous. You ain't got no game. You don't know the rules. You give up too soon beyond one or two moves. Don't matter who begins. No toss-up is required. The first one out of the gate can set the pace, the reply, the style. It's give and take, not a tug of war. Besting and flirty exchanges can open up a stuck door. Put down the phone, give up the texting, practice your spells, be unrelenting. Let light twinkle in your eyes and lift your lips to smiling. Stir the pot carefully to create a new brew. It's all part of saying, how do you do? Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. We're just moving. We just got a couple of Caps faithfuls here with us tonight. Penny Brody. The next gentleman, Mr. Tim Brennan.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
The light, just right for that moment, lacking orchestration, which leads me like a slow friend, complaining of this and that as we pass the tree recently struck by lightning. One whole side struck dumb, now dead, as some who live lives in the halfway that's obvious to all but them, shifting between Eros and Thanatos, while trying to stay on the road in a downpour. Yet no loss will stub the toe into backing up. No history packed up for relocation to another in a series of arguments after the latest written fact. Our instructions vary in length and quality of metaphor. Listen to children read the lines over and over for the slightest decay of sound in the rising and falling before the gates. By the book's middle, days grow critical of their own structures left unexamined while being explained. There's so much more to become aware of, to wake up to let the children continue to see as the oak and walnut shed their fruit early this summer in fear of some attack and the sky over clouds again. Plans made, we build, and something always goes awry. Something overlooken or forgotten, or just new comes into view to change the light and strange the shadows. Force bears its own sound, tasting slightly red in the face of the interminable, and falls back onto its memory for comfort. All that I might have done differently would have led me not to hear. Thanks.
Cat out of the way. Tim, that's it? Just one? Okay. Come on, Danny. Ken Holland, you're next.
Hey, thank you. Wow, what an evening of features. Two poems, and this first one is called Burn Pit. What's been in the news, the military burn pits, but like what poetry does, it tends to mess with images and metaphors. So again, it's called Burn Pit. Always our need to know the way a burn pit is in conversation with its burning, how we are ordered to breathe, to stand and breathe, so our blood can acknowledge what is entering the lungs, the particulates of precious heavy metals, vulnerable as we are, ordered to be more so, to perform upon command, even when we suspect it to be lethal. And somehow still our need to know, the temptation to put the knife tip of fire to our tongue, smoke rising like the voice of a chanteuse, the Steinway's lacquer liquefying in the heat, air to breath to blood, and no one is allowed to leave. The singer still singing her desire, the burn pit burning brighter. The second poem is called, thank you, it's called Listen Closely. Yes, of course, on my deathbed, I'll be pleading with God like any other wounded mammal. Still not believing, but no longer a disbeliever. It's fear, no doubt, that gerrymanders the mind, that allows sin to become tangible, like a kiss, like breath blown from the bellows of this one particular God, or the way an owl can hear the nimble blood pulse of a vole under 2 feet of snowpack. How for years you've been the one, winter-winged and predatory, perched upon the dying light. And now you're the fragility buried beneath the snow, trying to silence the betrayal that is your heart. Thank you for listening, as always.
Well done. Thank you, Ken. For those of you that want to hear more of Mr. Holland, he will be one of our features on November 3rd, Friday, November 3rd. And our features for October 6th will be Mary Lacella, Harvey Sauce, and the just announced Poet Laureate for Ulster County, Miss Kate Himes. So please join us on October 6th if you can. And our next open micer is Mary Makofske. Mary, good to see you.
Hi, thank you. Okay, this one is, okay, I was thinking about, the terrible things that are going on in our country. And it reminded me of those country songs, where the guy is such a loser and the woman is still loyal. This country could break my heart. Slicked back hair, tooled boots, 10-gallon hat that makes the head seem big. Broad hands, calloused, quick to clench those women, always running into fists. Blood's easier than love, love's short. Somebody is going to cheat and break my heart, this country says. Oh, lonesome road I can't resist. Outside the laws, not cold, but free. Ain't nobody can challenge me without a fight, this country says. Those old vows, hard to make, prove harder still to keep. A roving eye, that's what this country has, and jealous heart. And sweet talk that could melt the Arctic ice, and does. Draws toxic rush deep in the lungs and blows out perfect smoke rings that could wreathe the worst defeat. On borrowed cash, stands on its own 2 feet. Sticks up for friends, that's what this country does. Even the ones that lie and steal and cheat. And never met a man it didn't like, and never met a man it couldn't kill. And has a most prodigious appetite. But when that song comes whistling down the lane, that familiar step clanks on the porch, I curse us both before I hear the rap, unlatch the triple bolted door again. And one more. Bull in a china shop. Who can blame the bull? He's used to open range. When he stamps his hoof, the weak scatter. His bellow splits mountains. He can't help swinging his head to glare at this cage. He can't help the sweep of his lethal horns. Why is he thwarted in his drive to master this crimped space? Even a twinge of fear may surge through his body as he spins, kicks, thrashes to escape, to shatter what he cannot understand. Who opened the door? Everything here was fragile, precious. Thank you.
Well done, Mary. You want to tell folks about your new book?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Go for it.
That's from my new book. It's called, oh, that looks backwards to me. Okay. No Angels. And it's put out by Kelsey Press. And it just came out in July.
You can put the info in chat, Mary. Wish you would.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. It's always great to see and hear you. Thank you. Mary will be one of our features in 2024. She just has to pick a date.
Okay.
Our next reader is Frances Lombardi Grawl. Are you still with us, Frances?
Hello.
Hey, here you are.
Thanks so much for letting me read something. It's called An Unexpected Presence. The deer, which at first glance our friend mistook for a dog, was lounging in the cemetery where Edward Hopper was buried. It wasn't Hopper's stone that the deer adorned, but someone named Pope. We couldn't find Hopper in that colony of graves, yet after a while, it didn't matter. We paid homage to the others, Proctor, Spate, Morris, and Spencer. saying their names as if our voices were a benediction. As we drove on those long winding paths, when a deer surprised us, and our friend took its picture from the car window. Then we spotted another a few yards away, and still another, and it seemed like a stone should have its own deer. I told my friend to be careful, not to startle them. I wouldn't have forgiven them. What would people make of us, taking a joy ride through a cemetery? Some might, we weren't thinking of death, our own, nor our loved ones. We felt happy to be away from the noisy thoroughfare. The deer must have felt that way too, knowing where to come for an otherworldly peace. They look like stags in a Norse fairy tale, an unexpected presence, sharing their magic with us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Fran. If you want to put any information, because Ron just put that you're reading for Red Reeldow, or if you want to put any information in the chat, please do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Francis. Katie Cornell, are you still with us?
Katie actually had to go, so
Okay.
she will not be reading today.
Okay. Deborah DeNicola, are you with us still? Deborah.
I'm here.
All right, looking forward. Come on.
This is going to read two shortish poems from my book, Original Human. Only one remark more. No opinion so strong they're strangled by their own hard edges and get in our way. Rather something soft, a superfluity, like Zinfandel in the tropics, not zesty, not eccentric, just a bottle in back of the fridge, something peachy and already open. Like that song Friday night at the karaoke, how it dolled up your tongue to dapper, and there were no more remarks to reel in for the rest of the evening. Superfluidity in your hands, your fruity mouth on mine, so there were moans maybe, though I don't remember them either. Your fingers entrained like birds, where I was the whole sky. And this one's called The Light That Gives Most Light. Sleeping late on Sunday after the film noir kept me awake, but still dreaming throughout the night, choosing from everything I can't have and never will, then taking a favorite snack to the closet, licking vanilla off my fingers while I sit on the floor among shoes that can't walk me where I want to go. Stealing from my best friend because she has too much, then calling on God to forgive my stupid tears, calm the trembling I promised I'd never feel in my fists, and thanking the angels for the view from the pantry window, where I would go to write my songs, small songs that gave me comfort when I was old enough to sense the world careening out of control, though the light still dawned inside me and fired the veins down to the wrists like fuses for some ceremonious insight, awaited with patience, almost with pleasure. Thank you.
Nice, Deborah. Thank you. We got to get you back. We got to get you back one next year, hopefully. So, thank you. Raphael Kosek, you're next. Is she still with us? Raphael?
Muted. She's muted.
Oh, you're muted. Okay, go for it.
Sorry, Penny, you wrote a poem after Cape Cod, so I wrote one after we came back from Maine. So it's called After Maine. After Maine, I still feel the sea breathing around me like a great and gentle beast. For during the storm, the whitecaps curled their sails, hungering after whatever's in their path, until the beach itself is gone at full moon high tide, only the waves slapping the seawall in watery grift. That sea, within and without, a wild thing, its waters within us the same. We all rise and fall back and rise again, repeating the same inexorable story. We want, we long, we travel, we surface and drown and breach all boundaries. We hurl ourselves, wind-broken, sanded clean, but end in the heron's stillness, its careful eye, always on something we can never see. And I'll read one more short one. It's an old but new O'Keeffe poem. Her Blue Morning Glories, New Mexico, 1935, Georgia O'Keeffe. Your blue throats drink the sweet morning air, rising to an openness past believing. Blue on blue, beyond blue, you show us how to balance beauty, to push it up and out into the world, past reason, so that yellow burns at our center and lapis edges our outermost reaches, until we don't know if we are flower or body or sky, but simply reeling up and out into cerulean divine, a wordless glory, where we begin to learn again ourselves, inhaling, exhaling the blued world with morning's silvered air. Thank you.
Well done as always. Thank you, Raphael.
Oh, and by the
Margie?
way, fabulous reading tonight. Very, very, very good.
I know, we're getting spoiled, man.
Yeah.
Margie, you're up. Margie, still with us? Is she here? Is she here? There she is. You're muted.
Muted.
Not anymore. No, you're still muted. Uh-oh. Muted. Hey, Greg, can we unmute her?
I can't from here, no.
Okay,
Um,
there she is. Think she got it.
You got it.
I got it.
Yay!
Oh my God, this technology is just really difficult. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of writing, and some of the things that I've presented here have been like rough drafts. I just did one a couple of times ago, but this is a rough draft. And I wrote it last night and finished it before today. And it is just like, for me, it's tumultuous because there's so many things that go into writing poetry. There's so many things that go into narrowing down your thoughts into a process or into a way of expressing that it's a lot of work. But anyway, all right, this is the poem that I wrote last night, and it's only one because it's sort of long. It doesn't have a title, but here it is. Civil war is here. It doesn't look like the picture book images of gray and blue uniforms pitting family members against family. The antiquated bayonet rifles and the smoke-filled battle scenes, blood and death and dirt everywhere. Those were pictures, photos. We looked at them, and now, viewed with some distance, some time-lapse safety valve that allows, sorry. Viewed with some distance, some time-lapse safety valve that allowed us to think Not now. It can't happen. Not now. That was the Civil War. That was then. It is not now. Now is when we know the blood-splattered linoleum floors of children's schools holding the splayed entrails of our babies, our young, are not seen. They are out there and collected, but we do not see them. We don't have pictures. We cannot see the horror. We see the death tallies in a mall, in a ballpark, in a grocery store, everywhere. The violence is everywhere, and the fear follows. The fear creeps. The fear creeps and creeps into our eyes that are slanty-eyed by the need to see in all directions. But we cannot see. We don't have pictures. We don't have pictures of those crushed, bleeding bodies. We have videos of flashing lights, sirens screeching, commentators talking into cameras, all the living people describing the horror. But we don't see the squishy entrails of babies, young people gone, lines that whisper into eternity. Why don't they care? Civil war is here. It is not civil to accept violence as if it is part of a necessary working order. Some will die, some will not. The Civil War that is the here and now of our lives is against the enemy, the arrogant, imbecile nature of leaders who bask in chiseled chin photo ops and vapid words to cover their impetus. The grifters take advantage of tumultuous times. Vote. Thank you.
Well done, Margie. Thank you. Dr. Francesca Bremner, you're next.
Thank you for letting me read. This is my first time, I think, reading here.
Welcome.
It's a poem titled The Blue Door. Where were you when I sprang half-eaten into particles held by sunlight? It was April, the cruelest month of all, a month of fools, grief, and atonements. Do you remember the door to the rose garden of blue paint and sandalwood, of bramble, roses, and human skin, torn, tattered, tethered to a flag? How many have you killed? I had asked you once. Never ask a soldier that, you had answered, carving your story on my skin in calligraphy, the pain fine and sharp, like a knife, lingering on the soft curve of words, a dash here and a dash there, moving from ink to blood, now high on that mountain, pressed and human-stained, the color of dust, and the wind scatters the smell of cinnamon, peeled raw from weeping trees, crushed sage and lavender in the rain, and human skin high on that mountain, reflected down in the valley in still water like glass. Thank you.
Nice work, Francesca. Thank you. You only have one?
Yes, I thought I could only read one.
Oh, man. All right. When you join us next time, please bring two.
I appreciate that. Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Beautiful work, Francesca.
Thank you.
Michael O'Mara, you're up.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, I've got a couple of apocalypse poems because you can't ever have too many. The first is hyper real and the second is a little more surreal. Living for now in an unoptioned treatment of a Walker Percy novel. Now that the long promised apocalypse has arrived, I seem once again to be surviving. I feel ready for anything. I carry nothing but the clothes on my back and a good sun hat. My puppies are with me. There are still squirrels and mockingbirds, though not as many. Yes, I expect my meds will run out quickly. That could mean trouble, but I've thought that before. The stores, restaurants, warehouses were plundered quickly. My what used to be downstairs neighbor got 8 cases of Dinty Moore beef stew. My survivalist neighbors are desiccating the deceased for jerky and joking, gotta say this is the most useful Clem's ever been, with the inevitable and repetitive jokes about his good taste. No doubt Clem's pleased to be thought of so well. In less than a week, the puppies and I are living like Old Testament prophets, honey and locusts, handfuls of worms. For some reason, I have a strong recollection of Yule Gibbons asking, "Ever eat a pine tree?" I remember the homeless man on the beach eating sea grapes, but they're not in season. We'll eat whatever the squirrels eat. The neighbors throw the puppies some of their homemade Slim Jims whenever we pass. When you dry me out for jerky, I tell them, please remember to feed my dogs. I've always liked your dogs, my neighbor replies. I'm so ready. The last man talks to his dog. By the time the birds began speaking, it was already too late. Likewise, the cuneiform clouds. Then came the constant wheezing, heavy breathing, and a foul breath to boot. As of a graveyard in a floodplain, every stinking skeleton from every Greek name for time began to dance free. And from their tattered pockets fell demon seeds that priests had relegated for old wives and druids, or worse, simply forgotten. Ah, yes, that, the old ones said. How could we have forgotten that? And it wasn't terror in their eyes, though it should have been. When we could no longer find the dolphin or the whale or the vessels we sent to rescue them, well, you'd think we would have known. But a preoccupied people can teeter upon the indifferent edge of ignorance almost perpetually. So when we misplaced the moon, it phased into a new moon, but never came back. New moon became no moon, and life went on for most, and sad we were for them that perished. But change is a good thing, don't you know? You can't make mail without cracking some eggs. He felt quiet and mused. Who was it in his boyhood that always said that? His eyes briefly shut and once opened seemed to study an unfixed marker away or within. One can't help but ponder what, if ever, that true dog beside him yearned to ask or say. Thank you.
That's apocalyptic, all right.
Great.
Thank you, Michael. Naomi, you still with us?
Yes, I
All
am.
right, you're up.
Okay. I'm just going to do one, but it's a longish one. It's called Senescence. Grandma, how old are you? She stops, faces me, states, I am 55 years old. That's old, I reply, my eyes wide. I am 5, astonished by such a number. Well, if I'm so old, she offers me the vacuum cleaner, maybe you should do this. At 10, I wait for a bus beside a wilted man drooped over a white cane. I ask, and he tells me stories of dirt roads and trolley cars, meadows and woods where buildings now stand. Does he know he's old, I wonder? What does it feel like? At 29, I give birth. To my daughter, I am omniscient and omnipotent. To myself, I'm just trying to figure it all out. At 36, I am the age my mother lived to. My train of thought occasionally leaves without me. I tell this to my grandmother. Oh, Kuchki, she says, you're still just a baby. Each morning in the dappled woods, the cycle of birth and decay persists, a symphony of translucent greens lighting the tips of trees, folded honeysuckle buds cupped like hands in prayer, holding only hope. Blossoms burst open like tiny flames, flinging their fragrance through the damp air, then shrivel, leaving delicate pistils to ripen into fruit. I leave flowers, feathers, and heartstones with my daughter's ashes now blended into soil. I am now 5 years past how old Grandma was the day of the vacuuming faux pas. I'm just starting to figure things out. My friends and I watch each other age, bespeckled and bespectacled, already breasts amputated, hearts restarted, moles and wombs excised, eyes cloud, insight deepens, bellies soften, backs ache, hips and knees replaced, still we march and teach, write, sing, do yoga, eat yogurt. Friends inflict photos of grandchildren. We're in pretty good shape for the shape we're in, one says. Now she is dead. Trees spend 1/3 of their lives dying. Throughout winter, brittle beech leaves cling fiercely, paling to lace, then wave like first flowers until spear-tipped buds pointed like a calligrapher's brush nudge them finally aside, unwrapping silky newborn skin as last year's leftover foliage melts into the decaying carpet, reticulate with microscopic lifelines whose bodies fruit from those same disintegrating trees. The mostly rotted trunk of a majestic maple, older than my grandmother by several greats, houses red squirrels, bluebirds, and brown-eyed barred owls. A pileated woodpecker feeds on the feast of insects, in turn feasting on the tree's flesh. Yet one large limb, still green, still flowers, releases gossamer wings curling to the humus fed from the deep loam of her own mulch and by that invisible mycelial web, nourishing offspring sprouting around her. Now I am in that last third. I can answer some of my own questions. I know I'm never going to figure it all out. Every morning, the stranger in the mirror startles me. A slumped form and vaguely reptilian face peers back. Lines where none were yesterday, spots and sags, loose, softly wrinkled hands like my grandmother's, like the grandmother I will never be, like the fading beauty of the withering leaves. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks.
I never really looked at myself as vaguely reptilian, but I might change now. Thank you for that, Naomi.
Thank you.
Kateri, you still with us? Kateri, you still with us? Going once.
Yeah, I can be.
Is she there?
Yes, she is.
All righty.
I don't have speakers
You're
set
up. You're up.
Okay. This was conceived about a year ago. Upon overhearing the employee at Home Goods explain that the harvest stuff should really be separate from the Halloween stuff. I never liked it either. The skeletons and toilet papered trees ruining what was otherwise a perfectly good fall. She's explaining this to a young trainee. She is dead serious. It is early September, and in the real world, Halloween a long way off. Harvest too feels questionable, almost no rain in months. My parents gave up on their tomatoes, afraid the well would run dry. Less thirsty, the basil bursts green and lavish, the only thing my mother waters. Here, the crabapple looks brittle and dry, and I worry about the trees, wonder if drought will push them over the edge. Usually, they sprout little fiery tufts late August, a sign of the looming school year, the summer gone too soon. But now there's barely a hint that the leaves will turn. Maybe the foliage will go on strike this year. Wouldn't that be nice? No tourists, no bright, pretty things to have to gawk at. Like down south, where the leaves just turn brown and drop. No one goes to see them. They could spare us the red and gold for once. Quit pretending there's enough to be thrilled about to stay dressed up for weeks and weeks. Finally, the rain comes hard, Labor Day, and keeps on coming. 5 inches of it, dumping on everyone's picnics, but no one even cares. The purple salvia deepens its green, and the hummingbirds swerve and stay a while longer, even after my neighbor with all the flowers draping her deck says they're gone. The leaves turn like they're supposed to, just a little late, and I let go of my dark fantasies, and soon enough, Halloween is over too, cueing the leaves, which mostly come down, and suddenly November opens its maw and everything feels real. Nothing but sky, unfettered. Thank you. Just that one.
Nice. Thank you. The foliage goes on strike. What would we do around here if that happened? Oh, shoot, man. Sharon Ferrante, you're up. Sharon, you still with us? Sharon, there she is. All the way from Florida, but you're on mute.
I'm trying to unmute. Did I do it?
Yes, you did successfully.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sharon.
Oh my God, what a great night. I mean, the poems are just fabulous. And I'm so glad to be here. I didn't know if I was going to read, but I got a short little kind of crazy poem I just had published in Lothlorien Journal, so I'll read it. I'm really happy to be here, so I'll just read. We previously feared the time, what's unseen, and a poet's head below a guillotine. No matter the century or how a bell rings, we fear a broken tooth, chewing on the monster things. That's it. Just that little short one. That's it.
Just one?
That's all I got. I didn't
Really,
take that
with all the publishing you've been doing lately, just one.
because you know that I like to just listen. I get shot.
All right.
It was really good. It was so good.
All right.
Next time I'll
Okay.
pick up because they're so short. Next time I'll pick more.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Go ahead. Be that one. All right. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Amanda Spadafino, you're up.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. So this one is called Dollhouse. There is something to be said about the people we once knew. I think it's a beautiful kind of pain to find peace in letting go on the day it hurts more to stay. When I love yous turned I need yous turned I need to love me more. I know how your feet turn numb banging on the door of a banged up dollhouse. I know how your knuckles turn red and it's easier to see the air you breathe when your body slows down first. I believed that in painted plastic walls there was more than a shell of what home could have been. With a foundation as thin as the love I could give on the day you were finally ready to let me in, I needed to love me more. Okay, so that's, and then, hold on, sorry.
Take your time.
So then, tightrope. I did it, but do more. You're an adult, be mature, be smart, and be kind. Hold your ground, be benign. Unbeknownst to me, our foundation is circumstantial. Accountability is a privilege, and love is on condition. You can say no, but let this go. It's not fine, but take the blow. You're the kid, stay in line. I love you. I love you on the tightrope I never wanted to walk, on the line you couldn't cross. Unbeknownst to you, you're burning through the fight beneath my feet to fall aside I didn't choose. I forgive the little person never meant to feel your burdens. For every time I let go, I know she'd still choose to fall in black and white and red all over the only acceptable cover. I love you too.
Well done, Amanda. Welcome to CAPS.
Thank you. Welcome to CAPS.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I have another, if I'm okay on time.
Yeah, go ahead. You're new. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. What is a void? To echo breaking barriers of space and sound, where it is not the silence that drowns out, fading with the quiet breaths I would hold as I walk blindly. One hand grasping for the footprints trailing behind, the other gripped tightly as I feel my bones shatter with pins and needles numbing the pain. As my consciousness is dragged further into the depths, camouflaged by the heaviness the darkness yields. Where reason finds itself lost in fantasy, survived by the most impossible of monsters. I strip my burdens with every passing step to lighten the weight my yearning voice carries. Where the raging screams scream back from the whispers of a crowded room still emptier than the void ahead. I find myself even abandoned by the ghost of whom left my trembling hand oozing red. As I wipe the tears glazed by the glass piercing my skin, lost in the depths of hell, I find myself alone. Lost in my mind, I scream for the shadows, but no one answers. As the loudest echo only travels as far as the quiet one feels inside. I am lost with clouded vision by the lingering shards of a broken reflection I never knew. If not the person I am trying to find, then the pieces of who I thought I should. For it was in this moment I realized the collapsing prison in my mind could no longer contain the lone shadow screaming in silence. Okay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
man. Nicely done.
Thank you, Amanda. Uh-oh, another Amanda on the horizon. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, we've come to that part of the evening where it's the last two readers, and that usually means Greg and I. So I'm going to read a couple of, well, 3 or 4 actually, haikus. It's a little bit different. Some of you have seen these up on, I've been posting them with photography up on Facebook. And autumn and August, the owl hunts, sings a dark blues, echoes the slow moon. The late August light, the gypsy violin, the shadows so restless. The barred owl howls, and everything in the forest turns its head to hear. Traces of lipstick on the moon, a quiet snow, my small wish for you. Thank you, everyone. And before I bring on the man behind the technology curtain, I want to announce that I totally lost the schedule for next month. Our events for September 14th will be our live stream on second Thursday. It is Susan Shoot and Danny Villegas will be our featured readers, and our featured poet for September 21st, which is Zoom only, is Beth S.K. Morris. And October 6th will be Mary Lacella, Barbie Sauce, and Kate Himes, who was just announced as the Ulster County Poet Laureate. So that's always going to be a treat. Kate's always great. And our last reader for the evening, before I bring Greg on, I want to thank Jim and Amanda and Ron. You guys are awesome. And you open micers, you held it up. So good for you guys. And Mr. Greg Carell. Come on, Greg.
He never taught.
There you go.
He never taught me which way to drag the razor, to lose gracefully, to respect dignity, to love silly, or how to tie a tie, to expect kindness, to love a father, or where safety lies, or to serve anyone but him. He taught me to hold still, to take it like a man, to be ashamed from head to toe, to swallow what he crammed in and not vomit, to avoid him, to shut up, to burrow inside, to keep my eyes blank when he lied in public. So I learned to recognize bullies and liars and frauds, to watch my back and front at all times, to expect bad things dozens of times a day, to lose track and fight my way back from darkness again and again for 6 decades, to play a part because all my early stories are sad, and to act okay because childhood was a nightmare and no one wants to hear about it. I have one poem, and it is this: rape. Taken to a place of 0 for 5 days, torn and punctured, debased and used. My ordinary life now is like face up in the guillotine. Everyone else talks sideways to each other, scans the ground ahead, feigning ignorance, pretending it won't fall. These are the crimes against me, and they relate. My father trains me to take it, to go along. I couldn't wheedle or joke or fight my way out of it. 3 to 1, those boys grunted, "I'll kill you," in my ear. I couldn't wheedle or joke or fight my way out of it. Imagine you are me. You're 14. Imagine you're heading for Boonville. the infamous place where boys died and worse. But you get a reprieve at the hearing. Mom decides to let you come to her house. Now imagine walking into a 9th grade class after 4 weeks in jail and 5 days of rape. You all looked like tiny, silly babies to me, worried about nonsense, appearances, homework, the opposite of gritty truth. Sometimes I would freak out and get suspended. They didn't appreciate how I laughed in their face or gave real answers in social studies. I cried once in the back of math class and was ignored. After a year of struggle, I quit for good. They were relieved. And my last poem is also a Borgesian quote from his Ficciones. My sepulcher shall be the unfathomable air. I jumped the banister at Borges' library and falling. Hands behind me reach, touch my hem, but I am lost. I do not curl or tighten. I fall free in a flurry of pages, through letters like silvery flakes, hovering, the power of pulp transcendent, descending upon the world, covering the fields and forests with homely meaning and the chaos of exactitude, with quotations and excerpts. Beckett drifts with Huxley, Highsmith layers upon Xenophon, Carver blankets Proust. I have 8 eyes, and I read and fall and fall. What of my dissolution in the air? I am words and phrases full of wild intent, but I fail with every poem. And now these are my letters, arranged by me, falling all around. With my hands, I make you small. My hands say, you aren't there at all. How can both be true? But here we are. I say now, my heart falls inside me. My falling heart, my switchboard, and I pull all plugs, no dedicated circuits anymore. I burst from myself at last, a squidwork of connections and holes, of messages like magazines of white phosphorus lighting up in slow-mo, after sparks going nowhere, going to someone, to you in particular. I say now, I am the throat of storms, howling up the well, ice words, fire words. I am littered with meaning, falling and falling words and phrases, rising fireworks you might love me for as I empty out. I might say anything.
Throat of storms, baby. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Wow.
Before we just open it up for anyone to say what, I just want to thank our features, Jim, Amanda, Ron, thank you so much. And I really want to thank the open micers because you guys held your end up. Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. Everybody.
If there was anyone new tonight, welcome to CAPS, and hope to see you again next month. And again, from me, I thank all of you for showing up again and being with us here on a Friday night. Thank you very much. And it was good to see you again, Amanda Russell. I haven't seen you in quite a while.
Yeah, good to be here. I mean, I love you guys.
We love you too. Thank you, everybody.
Brilliant night. Really wonderful.
Take care. Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Stay on the line.
Bye.
Stay on the line.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.